Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Grant Cameron, and I'm having a very important discussion I've had with my friend Yossi, who I've talked to a number of times. I think he has one of the more important books that there is, because I absolutely maintain, after 46 years in the UFO business, the number one message is oneness. And that is Yossi's message in his book. And I think it's extremely important. I'm actually doing a lecture next week, and it's called the What I Learned in UFO School in 46 Years. And that is one of the key things. And so today, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of a duality issue where Lou Elizondo is confronted by religious people. And there's a lot of people who look at this from a religious perspective. A lot of people look at it from a political perspective, in terms of enemies, or in the religious perspective, it's good versus bad. And so we want to sort of throw this around. And I've got some new material. I'm not sure, I've talked maybe once in one interview I talked about this, but I've got some new material. Through my life, I've found that from time to time, like with Yossi's book, I run into something where I go, oh, and it's like everything changes. Like you read it and you say, this sort of changed my life. And I've had another incident occur, well, actually two, but one involves a channeler who I will discuss today. When I saw what he was talking about, I was just sort of floored in terms of what we're going to talk about today. So how are you doing, Yossi? And thanks for offering to set up this conversation. I'll let you start in terms of what you think is an important issue, why we should be talking about this today in terms of your book, and in terms of these developments that have happened, in terms of people that are fighting back now, that are trying to push the issue back and saying, don't touch it. It's a bad issue.
Yes, I think this thing with Luis Elizondo, that he wanted to open the UFO issue, and he confronted the people that told him, listen, don't mess with that, it's demons.
Yeah.
I think it's really something that, all of the years that I'm thinking about this contact, I knew that it's probably going to come, because one of the things that I think bother people about the letting themselves be prepared for new intelligent that they are not human, is the religious belief that we are the only intelligent species there is, something like that. And that's why I think that many, and even in Israel, I see religious people say that the UFOs are signs of demons. And I think it's a border that maybe we're gonna should confront and just as tell our experience with them and what is related to that in that issue of religion or God, or the real purpose of them that is connected to our religious beliefs. And it's a very big issue, and I think it's very important, because what I felt with them is that it's like, in a way, they know this is very basic knowledge for us to know, and the main thing is to experience it. It's not exactly something that we can understand. This what we call God. What can you say about that? Maybe
I would add, when I was working on this book that I'm working on now, and the idea is that you and I come into the world. It's this idea that if reincarnation is a fact, we probably came in to do something. And there's a lot of different people who are channelers or experiencers are telling this story that this is all planned. That you and I and a bunch of people all came in here, and it's like a giant play, and that we're part of the UFO play, and some people are playing a different play, and you and I wrote the script, and we said, you're going to play this, I'm going to play this, how are we going to do it, and this sort of thing. Almost like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, all the men and women and aliens are but actors. They have their entrances and exits, and each man plays many roles. So if we assume that to be true, then you and I can understand sort of the idea that this is something that's unraveling. But I think to your point, I think what was even scarier than the idea that this general or whoever it was said, you need to read your Bible, is that these people actually believe this. And one of the things comes down to this neurology. How do people believe what they believe? And what they discovered was this idea that when something is considered to be a sacred idea, there's no changing. It's almost like the Israeli Arab thing about who owns the land. It's something where you're going to be still talking about this 1,000 years from now. And what people got to realize is not that there's good and bad people. There's just people with good and bad belief systems. And that the people who have these belief systems actually believe these are demons, because that's their upbringing. That's how it works. In fact, there was a story told that I heard behind the scenes was that there are people in the Pentagon who, of course, believe in the idea of revelation, that there's going to be this end of the world thing. And so they're all happy to go the nuclear weapon thing because they believe that the nuclear weapon thing will come and God will protect them. And this is God acting in the world to take out the evil people and the Antichrist. And so that's the thing, is this idea that once it's a sacred idea, it is almost totally impossible to change anybody's mind because they're dug right in. And so we can put it out. And I think maybe we have to look at it like Max Planck said. When he was the father of quantum physics, and he writes this statement that indicates that even he came under attack, that people were going after him, where he said, things don't change because somebody looks at the evidence and changes their mind. This idea that as science advances one funeral at a time, that the old people who are very conservative actually will not back off their ideas. And there's even this idea in neurology that if you're very conservative and you cannot accept new ideas, your amygdala is enlarged. So the neuroscientist people would say, oh, the amygdala is enlarged, which makes the person skeptical and conservative. No, it's the other way around. A skeptical conservative mind makes the amygdala bigger. And this has been proven in experiments. But the thing is that the idea is that the mind is running the show. The mind is telling the brain what to do. The brain is not making the mind and telling the mind what to do. So you're right that this is a sort of a difficult position that we're in, where it used to be in the old days. I remember I was raised very religious. So in the old days, religious people would shut you down by saying, you would have an idea like, oh, I had this experience and these beings were in my room, and they'd say, oh, that's great. That's good. Very good, Yossi. But let's see what the Bible says. And then they would quote the Bible, don't deal with evil spirits and all this sort of stuff. And it was like the Bible is the final authority. You're not going to argue, because this was written by God. You're not going to argue with this. And now today's society, what I see is what's happening is they say, that's a very nice idea, this UFO idea and these beings, whatever. Let's see what science says. And science has become the new religion where we sort of shift this around. But I think if you look at, if you can keep an open mind, I think what happens is you start to listen to the people that I think are in the field. So when you had that experience in Los Angeles, you were in the field. It was not your rational analytical mind that is very limited, has no idea, little things. You were in the field and somebody was giving you material. They were giving you material. And I think you said, you can clarify this, that through the years, you've been able to go back to the experience and gather more material and bring the material in. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are in the field, because the material in the field is going to be more accurate. They don't have all the biases, they don't have the physical stuff to deal with, and they're feeding material. And this latest book I have is indicating, I take 11 things that I think were fed to us, that at this time in the period, there's 11 plays going on where they're feeding and they're trying to save us from the Titanic from hitting the iceberg. They're trying to shift the consciousness of the world. And so one of the people I got, and this is where I would say my main point is a guy by the name of, and I just heard him about a month ago. I've done a lot of channelers, like people who are in the field where suddenly one day there's somebody talking through their mouth and stuff like that, and it's almost like something is coming in from the field, and if you accept that they're actually getting the material, which is probably true, you're probably telling the truth, they're probably telling the truth, everybody's basically telling the truth. It's the interpretation. And the guy's name is Paul Selig, and what he says is, and as soon as I heard it, I said, this is right, this is how it works. And he said it's all divine. So you take the Big Bang Theory or whatever you want, it's all coming from God. All of it's God. And we have to do the separation thing. So you say, oh, it's all God and it's coming. But then these evil spirits came and the devil was created and they came in and they played. No, it's all God. And what he says, it's all divinity. And when you try to separate something from the divinity and put it in the darkness, it takes you into the darkness with it. It's all divine. And he said, what you take out from the divine and separate and try to say, that's not divine. This is all this is divine, but you're not divine. Whatever you damn and whoever you damn damns you back. And whatever you bless will bless you in return. And it's this idea that we're doing this separation thing. It's the same idea. It's all one thing. It's all God. And we're doing this separation thing. We say, no, that's not God. No, that's not part of God. There's part of the bad guys. And we separate them and put them into the darkness. And then we end up with ourselves just doing the fear thing. And the fear multiplies greatly because fear sells. Everybody knows this. If you can scare somebody by saying there's evil aliens or evil demons, then they're willing to give you their money because they want to be saved. And so they're going to come to you. So let's hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, it's the main point, really, the separation thing. I think this is one of the roads that we gonna go to have this revelation of what is the meaning of our consciousness, to be open to God, to oneness, to the wholeness.
Yeah.
And I think by the way we're going to see that everything is connected. Even the Bible, which now religious people use it for in a certain way. If you look in a progressive way, in a more deepest way on the Bible, and even more simpler way, you're going to see that the main thing there is actually to eliminate the diversity of our consciousness. Because we have two main sins in the Bible. The first sin is the apple of good and bad.
Yeah.
Which is exactly, don't eat the apple because you're going to die. But the real meaning of the apple is to divide the good and the bad from each other. The religious way of looking at that is that we learn from the apple that what is good and what is bad. But the consciousness of in the beginning was complete with God. What happened with the apple? It divided it to good and bad. And now from that day on, our consciousness is divided. It's because good and bad is really the basic way of divide things.
Yeah.
Because it's your perception, your
perspective. Yeah.
The perspective, you see it good or bad, and this is what makes it's exactly the left brain that doing that separation thing. And then the other great sin that the Israelis did in the desert was when Moses go to the mountain to get the Ten Commandments. They made this golden
idol, the calf.
Yeah, and this is the second one. And still, the real meaning of that is that the people cannot wait to Moses to come down and give them the real education of connecting to God, of what is God.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have a statue that have limits, that have character, that is made of matter, that they can worship. So the problem with that is that they could not stand the oneness, that it's not strictly by color, by form, they could not yet be ready to understand the oneness, that it's not have limitations. Like now, all of our progress in science, for instance, is by learning the limitations of examining things. And this is only the left brain that use this, and we develop it for a very progressive thing, but we forgot now to think differently to combine this oneness and to understand reality through the oneness.
Yeah.
And what is interesting that, in the Bible itself is written that when the day will come, the name God will be one, and the name of God will be one. This is the prophet, and it says twice the number one.
Yeah.
So I think this is the real meaning that we now started to get from the connecting with the aliens to connecting with our spirits, whatever you say about that the contacts with the aliens are lot of people talk about that. We heard that the oneness is the main thing, the one. And I think now we start to understand what the meaning of that. What is the real meaning of the one?
And I think we've got to carry that message. I don't think we can rely on anybody else, because what you see is, as you mentioned, science is very left brain. So you mentioned Moses coming down from the mountain. I always make a new joke now about science, where science will say we don't need God. We've got the laws of physics. And I say, well, who is that? And how did they become laws? It's sort of like, it's like were they chiseled onto stone tablets, and did someone bring them down from a mountain? How did they become laws? That means they're laws, which means do not cross over the line. It's like almost like a religious thing where you have to stay inside these things, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. And basically it's all theories, it's all ideas, and that we're struggling. The way I see it now is we really don't understand very much about anything. And that's what I think is most, and I'm actually going to bring up in this lecture this weekend, your story again. So your story is this idea of how they left the room, which always impressed me, was when you see these beings who all take hands and they start circling and they become translucent and then they turn into a ball of light and they leave. Anybody who thinks we understand that, it needs their head examined. There's absolutely no way. They are so far beyond what we're doing. And it makes it look like it is not not the physical thing we think it is. But the left brain wants to, the left brain is going to be ego. So it's all about me, it's all about I. We start the sentences, and a lot of time it will complain about things. Oh, I'm being oppressed, or I'm this, or whatever. And then I always say, who's being oppressed? Is it your spirit, or is it your ego? And it's always going to be the ego. And the ego wants to separate things into little nouns and little objects, because that's it. Me, there's me, the ego, and then there's you out there. It separates them, and that's, I think, as you mentioned, this is where the problem starts, where we're the good guys and you're the bad guys, and we have this separation where we don't realize that everything that's happening, or the newest idea is this idea of manifestation, where Seth, one of the big channelers, everything you manifest what's around you. End of story. And that's what quantum physicists is. That's what John Wheeler said. It's a participatory universe, that we keep wanting to deny that we are creating the world around us and that we are part of what is being created. We want to do that separation. There's me and then there's the world. And the world, and my mother-in-law is mistreating me, and the government's shafting me and stuff like that. And it's the ego who's playing this. I'm a victim. And what Paul Selleck said is, you cannot be the light and the victim at the same time. So
Mhm.
it's this idea that when you get the idea, so that's where I think it's important that you and I put out the message, and the young people I think will pick it up. People will sort of get it. The old people who are, especially in this sacred idea, where you know what it's like. I mean, I mentioned with Stanton Friedman, who spent 61 years in the UFO field, and he always used to tell me, he'd say, I was at Oxford University, and I had a debate against Phil Klass or whoever it was, and 79% of the people believed I won the debate. But when you look at his files, you look at all these guys that he argued with, the top skeptics in the world, how many of them did he ever convince? Nobody. Didn't convince anybody. And that was because everybody's embedded in their little corner. And you see that in politics, that people, when you start to argue politics, everybody actually goes farther into their corner. They don't come together because they've become sacred ideas. When you have an idea about what we're going to have for dinner, then we can sit there and negotiate and talk, and it's not a sacred idea. We can compromise. But in most stuff today, what you're seeing is that people consider these things start to become sacred ideas. They associate with their ego, and they aren't moving from anything. And so that's where I think we've got to sort of put the message out, almost like Bashar said, you live life to your highest excitement without any expectation of the result.
Yeah.
And let it go that we come into the world to do something. And I always remind people now, and this is going to be in the book, where if you die, you suddenly realize, oh, it was just a play.
Mhm.
UC played a role. I played a role. Desta was playing a role. These people, we all got together and we did this thing. We're going to realize everybody had their role. The good guys, the bad guys, everybody was doing exactly what they're supposed to do. It was all just a big play, but we take it so seriously when we're here. We actually believe not that we're coming on to be an actor on a stage. We actually start to believe we're the actor. So when we get
Yeah.
over there, I'll say, you and I will be fighting. And you'll say, oh, Grant, you win the Academy Award, man. You really believed you were Grant. You fell for it, man. You actually thought you were actually him. You played like you actually believed that you were him. And that's what we got to remember is Deepak Chopra. A lot of people have said, you have to remember who you actually are. So when you see the beings like you, like yours, when they disappear back into the other side, or one person said, we live in this world, the wave particle thing, where it changes from a wave to a particle. We live on the side where it's particle. They live on the side where it's a wave. And so you see your beings going back in. Where are they going? They're not physical. And that's the thing is we make these assumptions. Everything's physical
Yeah.
and there's good and bad people. And to understand that it's all one thing, and that when it's all over, you're going to understand that you may have actually made a deal with the beings that came to see you, and you played a role. And yet you and I, not only we played the role, but you and I wrote the script. Nobody, there was no God writing the script. We're the ones that are creating. Like, and that's what I've said recently is I don't even believe that God created the heaven and the earth. I think God created the spirits, and they created the heaven and the earth because it's all created by consciousness. Consciousness is primary. So you're creating the world. I'm creating the world. It's getting more complex. And as we go along, we're creating this world, and God is the sort of the spectator. He's watching this whole thing. We're doing this play for God. And we realize that when we die, we go, oh my God, it's like, it's just a, and because you play
Yeah.
1,000 different roles, then you say, okay, I'm off the stage and I'm going to go back on the stage and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go into another play. They have this other play on the other side of the world. I think I'll go do that one. It looks very exciting. And that's where I've been led in 46 years, is to realize that it's not the physical phenomena. People always want to put the UFO thing into this physical phenomena, that it's aliens. Or I may make the joke. I say, why do ghosts wear clothes? And why do aliens not wear clothes? And it makes you start looking at it like that. You go like, why do ghosts wear clothes? And because they when they appear, like you're being said, when we appear in your world, we can appear as whatever we want. We have to appear as something, otherwise you're not going to understand who we are. But you can do the same thing, you just don't realize it. And this idea that we are not the actor on the stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think they did it in a very wise way with me, and probably with all of the people that contact them. They find ways to make us understand things that in a way that we're gonna realize them with ourselves without them like telling it straight to us. Like they when they meet us, give us the experience, and
Yeah.
and not really the logic explanation. Like my belief in God started in the contact, and the way they did that, it was amazing. First of all, they made me contact them in two ways. One, when I was out of my body, pure consciousness without the limitation of the body, and then through the body when I'm sitting and totally awake, and then contact them with my brain, but totally the left and the right brain was connected like they do. And they did it, and they did it in a way that because of that we were all connected to, like our all consciousness were connected, and then they let me totally go inside their consciousness. And there I felt that they aware of that thing that we call God in a very natural, simple, and basic way of understanding reality. It's like for them, it's obvious that they made by this love, and it's obvious that this love is still continue to give them life and to be. And when I felt that, it was so amazed. I was so amazed, and I started to, like a human with the left brain, to understand it with my left brain, because it was only experience. I wanted to understand that. And what I did, it was like I'm asking them, what is that thing? What is beyond that? If you say that we are inside of it, so he is inside of what? That was my left brain that wanted to have a form of understanding of something that probably there is no form to understand in our way of trying to understand things like we used to. And when they felt that I'm trying to do that, they understood that I'm ruining myself by doing something that is not, it will not benefit me nothing, because the thing was the experience. And when I tried to give it a form or a reasonable, logical, rational understanding, I'm going to be lying to myself, or I'm going to misunderstand that. And they stopped the connection because of that. They didn't want me to be probably or misunderstood or harmed by that. And for me, that was a great example of the two ways of the consciousness that can be experienced exactly in the matter of God. This is not something that I could explain, I can explain. This is something that probably people gonna experience it themselves. It's not something that you can learn about, and it's not something with personality that you can match it with a person, that have this, he is angry about something, or it's totally different. It's pure love and without any limitation, and it's all the possibility are there, the good and the bad and the love and the hate, it's all there. And when you are connected to that, it's like the superposition that you can choose something with your left brain. I mean, like God is one. Why the number one? Because and it's the simplest number. Number one is it's the most simple number, and this is the name of God. And it explained it because one is everything. If you take everything is one, it's getting to the one. And when the superposition is everything, it's the cloud of every possibilities, and the position is what we do in our left brain that want to have form of something from that, all the possibilities, and you make it one, you choose one possibility.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you like lose all the other possibilities.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't know that you can choose the possibility, and you are not victim of the possibility. If you know that you can choose, then you can really use the oneness, because you're going to be really free. That things doesn't happen to you, you choose them. You can choose them, take them, and go in the way that you can choose from, and not be a victim of that thing.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question in terms of, you mentioned this thing about, when you come in, you have the experience. I'm assuming you're probably like me, that if you hadn't had the experience, you would not be thinking anything close to what you're thinking now, which is kind of the idea that's one of the few things that can really change somebody, is the experience, where they come and they're in your room and there's no denying it. And you see people make the shift. Because I always say to people, I have empathy for people who don't agree with me, because I say, if I hadn't had the sightings I had in 1975, I might be just as stupid as they are, because it's the sightings that changed me. And I think it would be the same with you. I want to ask you about that. And the other thing I want to ask you about is, have you gotten any indication from them or from what you've downloaded that you are a part of a bigger plan to do this? This idea that you came in to do this.
I didn't realize any specific thing to me as me. It all of the connection with them was treating me as a human being, like every human being. It was not specific. I didn't felt any
where did the idea of writing the book and going public come from? Like, why did you make that shift to take the chance? And did they have influence on this or push you towards this, or was it just something you thought you should do?
After I realized that all of the things that I experienced in the contact are totally real, and it was not any misunderstanding or I don't know other things, I waited to the world to realize it, and I waited to. I knew that many people have this connection, and they came, and they do come to many people. And I waited to smart people, to, I don't know, to the government or to the people that have much ability to use it. And I was sitting, waiting for that, and it didn't happen. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then after 40 years, I'm 60 now, and still people afraid and like not enough people talking about the real thing that there was there. Yeah. So I said to myself, that's it. I cannot wait anymore. I'm going to say what I understood, because in these 40 years, everything that happened made me even more sure that what I understood was real and it's correct. And all the new scientific exploration and many things I learned, I realized that all their teachings were amazing, correct, and very direct and should be used. And so I realized that I should say what I understood with that connection. It begins with the understanding that if the fear going to grow, and many people that talk about abductions, there was a period of time that all of the contactees talked about abduction. Yeah. And there were a lot of, like Whiteley Strieber in the beginning that was terrified, and And I knew that that fear is only the connecting in the beginning of something that you don't understand. And if you let yourself realize what really happened, there's no reason to fear, the opposite. And I see that more and more people are talking about this fear, and it's getting control of people. So I decided that me and like other people should talk about their good experience to give courage to other people that they have a good experience to talk to, and many other things, like even now, to even this of realizing God in this way of understanding, that I think that can be very benefit for us to realize God in the right way and not in the fear way. And many things that connect to that.
When you had you mentioned abduction, when you had your experience, you mentioned out of body, which a lot of people describe, and this idea that, like the DMT experiments where they did in the 1990s, where half the people saw beings and they weren't going anywhere. So can you describe again your situation where you start out of your body, then you appear to be back in the physical dimension? Can you describe how that happened?
Yes, I was afternoon. I was going to rest after day of work, and suddenly I found myself out of my body, looking at myself sleeping. So the feeling was that, it was the first time that I felt out of my body, and the feeling was great. It was a very free and happy and very wise experience of understanding things. Now, all I can say about that experience is my memory after I woke up, and I thought it was a dream in the beginning. But if it's funny to think that you woke up from a dream, that you are going to sleep and dream that you are out of your body. It's funny because this is the experience of out of body, but you cannot, because I was so far from this kind of knowledge about out of body. I didn't heard this story of that can happen. So I tried to rationalize what happened, and I thought I'm dreaming that I'm looking at my bed, sleeping in my bed. So in that situation that I saw them, the contact with them was very natural and very close and very easy, and I knew them. It seems that like my real spirit, that it's not looking at reality through my brain and body, is very open and wide. It's like our soul. It's very open and wide to other souls that are our family, and that we cannot see when we are in a body.
Now you said you knew them. Did you have the sense that you had met them before, that you were part of something?
Yeah, I was very happy to meet them.
Okay.
Like you're happy to meet your very good friend from many years ago that you didn't see. It's like behind the veil of amnesia. It's like, oh wow, I remember that. It's we were like we were playing together. We were being joined. We had the joyful things together, something like that.
Yeah.
And the connection was with a lot of love and happiness and very joy feeling that we have here very few times,
See, that goes back to the idea of that we may have made a plan with these beings and with everybody to play in this big play. Almost like when I describe when people get in the field and suddenly they have, and you probably had this experience where you get a piece of information and it becomes with absolute certainty. Like, this is for real. It's almost like you've been shown it before, and then you're in the field and you see it again and you go, oh yeah, I forgot. And I know this is real because I've seen it before. It's that kind
Yeah,
of thing. You had those ideas as well where it sort of
yeah,
made sense. It's like, and that would that and until people have the experience, they cannot know what it means to have absolute certainty. I always tell people when I had my download experiences, the weirdest part that I cannot explain to you is the fact that I knew it for sure. I absolutely knew this
yeah,
is how it worked. There was no doubt about it. I didn't have to
yeah,
think about it. And I think you had the same sort of thing, or this knowing thing, which sort of goes to the fact that when your left brain is shut down, because that's what's happening. When you're sleeping, your left brain is shut down, or when they pull you out of your body, or Bashar used to say, we come to you in your dreams because now you're in our world. It's this idea that you're in their
yeah,
world now, you're out of your body, and they're triggering you, they're bringing you out, they're putting you into a space where they can actually talk to you, because in your normal everyday life, you're not going to listen. You're not going to figure it out. And so that's how they come to you and talk to you.
yeah, exactly. The the experience of being without a body is really totally experience that you cannot explain, and I don't think that someone can understand it if he didn't experience it himself, because it's totally different experience of reality, and it's much stronger, it's much open, it's much more reality than the reality here, because you are aware of so many things and you see the connection between them and you understand them and you feel good and you feel love. This is real. This is the real. And when you go back to your body, you are suddenly realize that you are now in a box that's shutting you. 90% of you is shutting down now. And you can see only through your eyes and only through your ears and your brain that have this way of thinking. It's totally different.
Yeah. Some people describe when they have these sort of mystical experiences that everything was alive, everything was conscious, and everything was connected. Did you get all three of those things where you figured out that sort of idea?
When I was out of my body?
When in any point in the experience, did you have that experience? Because that's what people describe in, say, a deep meditation where they go to samadhi or that kind of thing, where that's what or the ayahuasca in Brazil, that's what they'll say. My ego was crushed, and I suddenly realized everything was alive, everything was conscious, and everything was connected, which you don't realize because your ego is saying, no, it's just me. I'm the actor on the stage. There's nothing outside of me. But when they pull you out and you're not on the stage anymore and you're looking down at yourself, then you get. So did you get all three of those ideas with the
Yes, when you are out of your body, or when I was waking up, but they let me go into their consciousness and to experience reality through their consciousness. What I experienced is that everything is consciousness, actually.
Yeah.
There is a wall, there is a tree, there is things, but they all form of consciousness in a way, in a certain way, with the color, with the shape.
Did you know that right from the time when you had the experience? Because that's something that I only learned in the last couple of years.
It was the experience. It took me many, many years to give words even to myself.
Yeah.
But when you find the words, you know that was part of the experience.
Yeah.
For instance, when I got out of the room after they're gone, I watched a tree in the garden.
Yeah.
And the tree was moving in the wind and the sunlight hits the leaves. And I realized that the tree is conscious and he's like observing the sunlight and feel the joy from that and feel have a thankful emotion to what is that. Like he is aware of God too. This simple tree knows that he got his life from something, you know, and it's different from us. We live like we own ourselves and this reality, and we don't give a second of a thought that that we live something give us the ability to live every second.
Yeah.
It's a totally different realization of reality around you.
Yeah.
And everything is totally conscious. And what the visitors did, like when we want to go to some, like to the other room or to go on the road, they don't have a body, they have their consciousness, but they do it with their consciousness. The conscious can be concentrated in every place or time, doesn't matter. And and it's amazing because when I was inside their consciousness, I saw that they can like move everywhere, and what they all the things that they meet are pieces of consciousness of something that I couldn't understand. What is that? But it was really like a living thing. But I cannot say what it was. You know, it was.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even words, if that you can put out words, but even words cannot describe the emotion. It's like when they say with mystical experience, it's ineffable. You just can't describe it. There's no words to describe it. And you try the best you can. Can I ask you the idea? There's one of the other channeling ideas were Seth, who basically, I think it's one of the best channelers that you can follow. Seth said this idea that if your thinking is positive, that is going to be spirit. But if your thinking is negative, that's ego, and you better check your thinking. So was the experience when it was with Cross, was it all like positive in terms of being in their consciousness? Because that would indicate this idea, and maybe you can extend it, where I people ask, why do they come here? Well, why would they bother with us? And it's, to me, it's simple. It's because they're in the right brain. That's what the universe is about. It's about making a better universe. It's not about rape, pillage, kill, and steal. We're the only people who believe we're alone, and that it's whoever's got the most toys that when they die wins. Everybody, if you're in that field, that's what you do for a living, is you help the world become a better place. It's all altruistic.
Yeah, it seems that it's very hard for us to think of reality without bad thing or without bad. We are so accustomed to nature and what we see in the cosmos, and we see good and bad, and it's very hard for us even to imagine reality that good is the reality there. There is, and the thing is that what we're gonna realize is all the bad things that we see here are things that we separate from the good with our consciousness. And we experience them separately from the source, and then we feel bad because we did it with our consciousness. And in Hebrew it's exactly because the word bad in Hebrew is ra. Ra is from the word something that is not connected to his source. This is bad. The word bad, the meaning of the full word of bad is ra'ua, something that is not connected to his source, to his place, and is going to fall. So the consciousness like divided, and he is almost, that's why we see the bad thing. And in our consciousness, if we will examine the bad things that we like, the shadows of other people or our shadow, and really look at them and try to find the connection of that bad thing to the real connection where it belongs, then it's going to be lightened, because it's like you shine the light with your consciousness on that, and then you see that the bad thing is nothing, because there is only good thing. The bad thing is the shadow of your consciousness on that, and you see shadow, you don't see a real bad thing. We interpreted the shadow to the bad reality, but the shadow is nothing but the light that is hidden.
The one example I always use is the idea that once you get the ego out of the way, like once you die, I say to people, do you think that the spirit is sitting there worrying about 1743 when they got executed, when they didn't do something, or they got tortured, or something bad happened? You don't. You go, oh, that was that life, and now I got this life. And it's this idea that everything is an experience. When you actually take the ego out of the way and realize that the spirit is going through these different things, you're going to die thousands of different times by thousands of different methods. And the ego says, I don't want to die. I'm here, I'm on stage, and I don't want to leave. And the ego gets scared. And that's where it always breaks down. But I'm surprised that you mentioned this thing with the Hebrews. It's almost like the same thing with the Buddhists and the Hindus. Like we always think that science is so advanced that we're advanced, and then you start looking back on these ancient traditions and writings and realize these people had it figured out thousands of years ago. We're just catching up now with quantum physics, and you even see with a lot of the quantum physics guys got into this Eastern religions and looking at all these other traditions, and that's where these ideas came up. That they realized, this oneness principle, consciousness is primary, and they started to realize. And so I think we have to acknowledge the fact that just because you can't build a cell phone back in the first century or before BC, that means you're stupid. No, I mean, you have these people had enlightenments back at that time, the same as you and I have had enlightenments and had been given stuff out of a field or wherever this is coming from, and we should feel lucky that we got to have this experience, that we got to have this knowledge. And then I don't know, I guess it's in the New Testament, but it says, the idea in the Bible says, too much is given, much is expected. So you and I can't, when we leave the world, we can't say, oh, I forgot, I was going to do it, but I didn't have time. It's like you had all this information and you didn't share it. And that's where the onus is on us, because we've got the information, is to put it out. It doesn't help you and I if we keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, it's something that I tell to my friends every time that they talk with me about that book. They told me, how did you have the courage to talk about that you met green
beings,
aliens, and what and I told them, the one of the things that didn't let me, when I was thinking about that I'm going to die in a certain time, what was the most worst thing that I could say to myself that I didn't do? And that was the book. I mean, really, I mean, something inside me realized maybe the most important thing in my life.
I did some studies when I was young, before I had the UFO sighting, where I did studies with, I was looking at all the weird things happening around dying people in hospitals. And I went to the chaplains, because the chaplains are the people who are there when they die. It's not the doctors, not the nurses. Usually they call the chaplain. And I was asking them, and that's what they told me. The worst deaths are the people who have the regrets. I didn't say thank you. I didn't say I'm sorry. They'll say, my son, I need to settle this. He lives on the other side of the world. I need you to get him here. And the person will hang on till the very end. And as soon as that person comes and they say, I'm sorry, and then they die. And the idea they told me was people who live with regret, that I should have done this, I should have done that, and that an unfulfilled life, that's the worst way. The chaplains told me to die. So I think you've got the same sort of idea, is that, to me, it's that, plus it's the idea that you got to play this game. I mean, especially if you believe we all gather together to play this game. I mean, we could have played the game of going to war or, whatever. We got to play this game of, aliens coming and, consciousness and understanding how reality works. I mean, there's probably what 1% of the world you see that understand about this concept. That most people are, as they say, living lives of quiet desperation. They have no idea what's going on. And you and I have had a glimpse through the, the crack in the wall or whatever to see what's actually going on. And we got to think like, wow, we got really lucky. I mean, we really got lucky this time around that we got to play this game. I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. I think one of the nice things for the adventure of that is to see. I like the Bible very much. I see there are many things that is connected, and it's like the Bible is waiting for the real revelation. It's not yet was understood, I think.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like when they say about heaven and hell, the belief that if you're one of my friends who is is not a Jew, is a different religion, a female. We were talking about life and men, and she told me, if in my religion they say that if I will make sex before I get married, my punishment will be in hell for eternity, dipping in boiling shit for eternity. This is so what people can make from that pure thing of love, these stories, and probably the meaning of them was good to make the people going on the right way and not to kill each other, but it became such a mess that I think now is the time to really open the real meaning of that. If you take heaven and hell, you can see that this symbolic story is really fits the thing that we have a body and we have a soul, this left brain and right brain.
Yeah.
When we're gonna die, we're gonna have all the things we're gonna like. Our life is for learning things and have things. And if, for instance, one was like addicted to heroin, and he could only be in a joy because his body got this drug, when he die, he gonna feel miserable because he cannot shot himself this heroin. So the problem gonna be his pain for a while after he died is gonna be like in a simple hell, that he doesn't have a body to, or he was used to eat a lot or make sex a lot. All the things that the body can be addicted to when the man is dying is going to be in like hell. And I think this is the meaning. And the other guy that was looking for love and looking for spirit and looking for all the the stuff that you don't need a body for, that when you will die and get rid of the body, going to be in heaven, because at last now it doesn't have the limits of the body. So this is the real meaning. There is no heaven and hell. There is a time that you like feel that you missed something, or after you die, you're still the same spirit that have to examine his experience in this physical body.
Yeah.
And this is the.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, do you think from your experience, because a lot of times they talk about this yogic dreaming where you're preparing for your death. Do you think that based upon what you know, that when you die, it's not going to be that big a surprise? Because a lot of people, if they believe they're going to be in hell or whatever, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised, and because they have all these ideas. Do you think that with the reflection of our experiences that we've had and our discussions that we've had prepare us for death, that when we get across, we're going to go, yeah, okay, I knew this, and you know where to go, and this kind of thing, that we're being prepared for death, that we understand more about death as opposed to how to build a flying saucer, that we're learning about reality, and we won't be that shocked when we finally cross over.
Yeah, when I think the experience of being out of the body made me personally very totally ready for that.
Yeah.
Because it's such a good experience. It's the real freedom to be without the body.
Yeah.
So I don't have any doubt of when the meaning of dying, the second of dying, when you go inside the tunnel, and it's the most pleasant thing that
and
we
maybe,
cannot even imagine.
And maybe your green beings will be there to welcome you. Good job.
Of course. All the green beings, all the people that already died, and there are spirit there and waiting for you to help you to get along after you let the body downstairs.
Yeah.
It's a very pleasant feeling. I know. It's
when they do the play thing, they say the dead people are people that they just retired. They're on the side of the stage, and they're whispering, trying to go, do this, and you can't hear them anymore because they're really not on the stage anymore, but they're still there.
Yeah.
This analogy where it's. So let me ask you. We started off with the Lou Elizondo and the thing with the guy telling him to read his Bible, and this is demonic. And there are people that want this. They do actually believe this very strongly. What about the other aspect that we see as well, is the evil alien thing? So it's not demons, but it's evil aliens, or it's evil Chinese or evil Russians, and the deep state is doing this, or that sort of thing. Do you tie these all together, and what do you think is causing this sort of overrun of fear? Do you think it's the ego that's sort of running this show?
I think it's the rational thinking, because one of the examples of that fear is, look what they done to the Indians. A stronger developed group. We see it in nature that it happens, and we think that the reality itself should be like that. I mean, they don't divide from the nature that they see and the laws that of the rational thinking, and they don't think that can be something different. And so they are. But I think we are on a very fast development of that ideas. All this talking about consciousness now, all this, the quantum mechanics is amazing. This is something that we have now that the old Hebrew and Hindus with their amazing language like Sanskrit and Hebrew didn't have. They have amazing spirit connection to the spirit, but they didn't have the ability to materialize that like we do now with science. Science is going there. Science is now getting to the point that we can really understand physically into the matter how to connect to the one. Before, the people have to meditate, close their eyes, and to be divided from the physical world. And think that our development to that is going to be that we're going to do it on matter, on with our body, awake with our eyes open, and make it. And we don't have to be very special people. I believe that we can all be open to that.
I just had my consciousness experience in 2012, and I can guarantee you, people always think everything happened then. It's not true. There was nobody talking about consciousness. And if you see Jill Bolte Taylor, who has this experience where she has left brain hemorrhage, and she's out in her left brain is completely shut down, and she's in as big as the universe, and everything's perfect, and everything's like your experience where everything's perfect and it's one and stuff like that. And she said that there's no way she could talk about it. There's simply not. She was at Harvard University. But now, as you point out, I think things are starting to accelerate with quantum physics, with this understanding that the simulated universe, with the psychedelics, where people are having these, being treated for whatever condition, and they come back with these mystical experiences where they're saying, everything's one, everything's connected. I agree with you. I think this thing is moving along pretty fast, but there will be, like, science is very left-brained, and it's going to fight all the way. It's like they become sacred ideas.
Yeah,
If you spent $45,000 a year to go to MIT, you're not about to say that everything you learned was wrong. So they're
yeah,
embedded in these almost like religious people. But
yeah,
the young people are coming out more and more all the time. I think that I'm optimistic that, and it may be a plan. It's like the idea made it may not, even in the overall universe, it may not be a good bad thing. It's just a play. Okay, as soon as this play is over, then we're going to bring in the new consciousness guys, and then we're going to make this thing connect, almost like when you die. It was just a play that you played part of the play, and it really didn't matter whether you convinced everybody. You had this thing that it was all a play, and that somebody's going to replace you when you come in, and they're going to have another experience that's really going to convince people. And because we always get tied up in ourselves in history, that we want everything yesterday. We want it all solved. I want to know what disclosures. I don't know what the government does,
yeah,
and don't realize that it's not so much what the government does or what happens. It's what you and I do. That you can't change the world. You know that because you try to talk to people and they really don't shift very much. You can only change yourself and see, what am I supposed to be doing?
yeah, yeah. This is one of the things, and I think that quantum mechanics is really prove it, because
Yeah,
the simplest come out of that mathematics is that consciousness is really primary,
yeah,
because everything in our material world is in every possibility of,
yeah,
and you choose with your consciousness what the outcome will be, or what you choose in the reality.
yeah,
So for instance, if you are in life, in work, and your bosses make you angry, when you realize that this is all what's going on now is your um, position from the superposition, we can learn how to change reality by that, because if you will find a way to think different of your boss that make you angry,
yeah,
there is a way that your boss going to be different.
yeah,
I mean, it's really magic. It's like a fairy tale, but
yeah,
this is the meaning of that superposition,
yeah,
that you choose something, you choose your boss angry now. If you will change your way of consciousness looking at reality, the reality going to be different.
yeah, yeah. And this idea that consciousness is primary. There's actually a story that one of the most famous neurosurgeons in the world, or neuroscientist, was Wilder Penfield in Canada, who I always knew about. I didn't know that he'd done this experiment until a couple of days ago. I always knew he was the guy that had opened up the thing where he'd stick the probe in there, and the people would remember a word or an event or whatever. This idea that everything's inside the brain. But there's one experiment, and I checked it, and it's real. I said, if this is real, and I checked it, and it's in one of his books. And he does the experiment where he says to the person, lift your arm. The person lifts his arm, and they see part of the brain lights up. It activates. And then he says, put your arm down, and then that part of the brain deactivates. So then he takes the probe and he puts it on that spot in the brain, and the guy's hand goes up. And then he said, what happened? You lifted your hand. The guy said, no, I did not. You did. And then he takes it off, and the hand goes down. And he says to the guy, you put your hand down. No, I did not put my hand down. You put my hand down. And that's this
Wow.
idea that showed that there is something in that, because people always do that thing where this and that, and you say, well, who's like the brain? Like, if you do this sort of thing, then the brain, this part of the brain lights up. And I said, well, who's actually doing the meditation? Who's doing the medic? Who's changing the blood flow? Because fMRI is just the blood flow. Who's opening the valves and shutting the valves and stuff like that? And we realize that you and I, especially with your experience with how the beings disappeared, when you start looking at this neurology thing, you realize we haven't got a clue. We have no idea how this is happening. It's just this is happening, and all we're doing in science and in the world is we're describing, and we say we're explaining. You're just describing the magnificence of the universe. This happened almost like Moses going to the Red Sea. He has a staff and he touches it, and the wind comes up, and the water opens, and the children of Israel go through, and then he hits the staff. And that's very good. Now, how do you do the trick? All you did was describe what he did. You didn't explain how he did it. And that's what science is doing. It says the brain does this, and then the blood flows here and this sort of stuff. But that experiment, and I didn't know that. I've known about Wilder Penfield my whole life. I did not know that story where he says to the guy, and the guy said, no, I didn't. You put my hand up. I did not put my hand up.
It's
And there's this
amazing.
idea that there is something outside the brain that is telling the brain what to do. And that's what makes sense with this, where I talked about the skeptic and the people who are like cannot change their ideas, have these enlarged amygdalas. So if you can't change your idea, you're processing the amygdala, and it's firing, and it gets bigger. It gets more because it's got to handle all these signals coming in from the mind. That's almost like doing an exercise. When you exercise, the muscles get bigger. So when you're exercising by negative thoughts into the brain, the amygdala gets bigger. The same as I think it's the hippocampus in a taxi cab driver in London gets bigger because he's got to memorize 50,000 streets. And when he retires, then that part of the brain gets smaller again because you're using it. It's the use or lose that it's like a muscle that gets bigger and smaller depending how you use it. So I think we're at a point now where enough of these stories, if you and I tell these stories and keep repeating these stories, and other people will come and tell the same stories because it gives them power. Once they hear your story, then you probably had a lot of people come to you and say, I've never told anybody this story, but I'm going to tell you. And it sort of opens it up that the more we talk, almost like in America, people always have this idea, whether it was the African Americans or gays or gay marriage or whatever, we don't realize that those people had bad times where they had bad movies, bad jokes made about them, and it really didn't matter. The more people talked about it, eventually the consciousness rises, everybody's talking about it, and then everybody makes the right decision. People realize what's going on, and that we are no different than them. It's almost like childhood cancer. Because childhood cancer is a very serious issue and important, doesn't mean everybody in the world is going to lay down and start working on childhood cancer. It's like the more experiences raise it up, that we have to do the work. You and I have to, just because our idea is right and it's important, doesn't mean that everybody should listen to us. We have to do the work to get out there and tell the story. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I completely agree. And I
Yeah.
think that our stories lighten up the others' private stories. I got many reactions, for the book, and people tell me, I had some experiences that I didn't know how to think about them.
Okay.
So I didn't think about them. And when I read your book, I finally have some words to think about because they remember it only as an experience.
Yeah.
And we are not used to use the experience because we used to use only the left brain with the logical thing. And that experience stays like a dream, and they don't use it. And they said that when I read your experience and how you explain it, I finally have words to myself to start to think about my experience.
Yeah.
And that's what we can do to each other when we talk about our experience.
Yeah.
It's opening each other.
Yeah. And that's the thing is people start coming out of the closet, and the more come out, then the more the media covers it, the more people talk about it. And that's the way, maybe the way it was planned to do, that we wrote this into the script and that we came in on an agreement to do this. And we had the experience, and they want you to, I hear a lot of people say where the book, they helped me write the book, or if you know Sherry Wild's thing where she tells the story, she had trouble with her kids didn't want her talking about it at all. And so when she saw this thing on her computer, on the Word program open, and all this writing, 3.5 pages, and she looked at it and she went, no, we're not doing that. No way. And they had actually started writing the book for her. But they said, or they told her, have you forgotten the promises you made? you said that you were going to do this. You said you were going to, we'd have the experience, we would come, and that you would write this out. And so that's where I think I always feel very honored to be in the game, because I think maybe you agree that this is, if you understand what's going on here, there's no bigger story. There's nothing that even comes close to the experience and the story of what we're telling the world here. It'll change everything, but it's going to take some time, because people are embedded in religion, politics, in ideas that they have become invested in, and they're not willing to move off that. They're comfortable. They don't want to spend the time, or just the traditional idea that when a person gets an idea, or they had this thing with the left brain interpreter that they talked about. The left brain interpreter just makes something up because there's something weird, like what happened, and they just make up a story. Oh, it's just a dream or whatever. And then they said in their experiments that they had done in the 1980s, they said they confronted these people and said, this is why you did it. This is why you did this, because we set it up. We sent something to your brain or whatever. They would never change their mind, and they could not get them to change their mind. And that's this idea that thought is, once a person gets a thought, it's very hard to move them the other way. And maybe that's why they do a lot of stuff through Hollywood, where it's indirect, it's subliminal, it's in a fictional story, people don't know, or like yours, where they come with these weird looking green beings, and everybody goes, green beings. And it's like, it's sort of like they didn't have to come as that, but they make this sort of elaborate story where they tell you, they do all these weird things because they want you to go and they want you to tell a story, and everybody wants to hear the story. Maybe not so much because of the oneness thing, but it was like, they did what? How did they disappear? And like they were doing what? And it's like this, almost like a storybook that you tell this story, and in between the story, you're telling the oneness message, and they're picking up on the oneness message, not even realizing that they're picking up on the message.
And this is exactly what the aliens did when they wanted me to understand something. They like, it was that dream that they put me in a theater movie, and they tried to, at the beginning, to teach me, with words, with knowledge. And I couldn't, and I told them, listen, when I woke up from this dream, I knew I'm dreaming, and they are like speaking. I told them I will not remember nothing. So what they did, they started to give me an experience, like in life. I'm a small child, I'm walking in a dark place, I'm afraid, and I see a school, and I go there, and I see places. And then the adventure was not with words, it was only an adventure and experience. And that experience, the emotions and the things that I'll experience there, I can use knowledge. I mean, they gave me like knowledge of understanding without words. So this life is the same. It's like we came here to experience adventure of life, and by that we learn. It's very similar.
Let's do a little bit of advertising for your book, because a lot of people will hear this. So your first book was called One, and it's the basic message. And you're working on a second book, correct? Are they still talking to you? Are they still giving you material or inspiring you?
When I'm open to that and give time for that, it's a little bit hard when I have to go wake up in the morning, go to work, and come back. I don't have, but when I have a quiet mind and I go to sleep with a thought or with questions, I wake up in the morning and I have 2-3 pages to write, because I got and amazing things, that so it always it's always developed, because all of the things that I get now is standing on the things that I understood and I wrote in the book, in the first book. And it's all getting deeper in that, and with ways of how to really how to really do things for that idea that is written in the first book. The first book is the idea of one. Is like to understand that there is something in that one, that everything is one, and the second is going to be like, for an instance, how the one is a magic. Like if we look at our mathematics, we realize that that the mathematics is like the language of reality, of the science, of the physical world. Like the mathematics is a great mathematics is it's a great invention of human being. So much that people say that God made the world with mathematics. So if we try to understand what is the secret of that language of the mathematics, we find very simple thing that every child in kindergarten knows, that every number is only one. The number one is one, the number two is two ones, the number three is three ones. It's a funny thing, it's very simple, but this is all the magic of all these mathematics that make our progress in science. The secret of the one.
Wow, fascinating.
It's all one.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you had that thing, because I've written about inspiration before. This idea that I don't know if you know, Gary Nolan does this. He's the guy that's doing the DNA stuff with the experiencers with Kit Green. He's from Stanford University, has a DNA lab there. He talks about these things. I don't know how it works, but I know how to make it work. And he describes exactly the process you do. You have the questions all set, you go to bed, your left brain gets shut off, and they talk to you in the middle of the night, and you wake up, and then you quickly write down what's in your head. And that's what he said as well, that within a couple of days, the answer will have come to him. It'd be that morning or a couple of days later. And when it pops in your head, you have to write as fast as you can, because it's going to go back on the other side as quickly as it came in. The door is only open for so long, and you've got to record it. So I'm glad you're doing this inspirational thing. And I think that's important material. That's why I try to follow people like you, who's in the field, who's getting material. I don't care you're rational, analytical, how you figured it out. If you have experiences like this, you're in the field, and that information is going to be accurate. It's almost like a savant, where they have these savants where they say, what's 2 times 3? And the guy goes, would that be 7? And they go, no, it's not 7. And then they say, what day is the third Wednesday in the year 1 in March? And they say, oh, that was the 21st. And where's he getting it from? He's not calculating, because he can't calculate. And that's the idea. The information is in the field, and it's people like you that people have to listen to get in, to realize this guy's been in the field. He's getting material out of the field. The material is going to be more accurate than what you're going to get on the street, and you should listen to this guy.
Yes, we're doing that. We're doing that when we when we wake up in the morning. What actually is going on is that our left brain is still in the first seconds of the waking up, is still close to the right brain. So I mean, it is not controlling you yet, the left brain.
Yeah.
So you can suck some more from the white side before you totally wake up and you only left brain.
Yeah, Russell Targue, he was the guy that worked on the remote viewing. He always talked about that. He said, when you wake up and the dream or the ideas in your head, do not move anything, because all you have to do is move one little finger, and the left brain says, oh, Yossi is waking up. Let's go, get together. And it starts shutting the door, because it realizes you're awake and you're online. Or the other way around, where my assistant Desta was very good at this, was the idea that when you're going to sleep, you're going to get what's called the rollover thing, where you're lying on your back, and then it'll say roll over. And that's when you go to sleep. But if you can resist the rollover, then what happens is your body goes to sleep and your mind is still awake. So some people have learned how to perfect this, to stop rolling over. and then their mind is open, and the body will give you an itch. It'll give an itch in your leg, and it says, "Is Yossi still awake?" And then you scratch. Oh yeah, he's still awake. And that's these signals that they're giving to try to get you to. They want your brain to go to sleep before the body, but you can trick the body into the brain into thinking the body's asleep, and then you're in the field. So that's the thing. It works both ways, going into the sleep and coming out of the sleep. And so that's another thing. It's almost like the oneness thing. We're starting to learn these techniques, and people are starting to learn how to do this and get in and get this material. So I'm pretty optimistic about where it goes. But again, it's the most exciting thing that we got to play in the biggest game of all times, and we should be very honored to God, to the Creator, that we got to play this game.
Yeah.
We got lucky. We could have been and then we could have lived in a junkyard in Calcutta, or be a refugee wandering the world with no place to go. We got to do this. So you got to be grateful for the situation that we've been able to have.
I'm totally grateful. I like, there is nothing more that can make me happy in life than to write and to understand and to be like, to have this downloads or understandings, or because it developed in such a beautiful way, and it gives you real happiness that you can really be aware of that. It's like seeing, it's a light that you can.
And thank you for sharing it, because I've told your story a pile of times. Especially the part about when it turns into a ball of light and leaves, and then I always say, is it a flesh and blood alien, or is it a ball of light? And if it's a ball of light, does it eat bacon, eggs, toast, and coffee in the morning? And it's the idea that makes people think. And as you know, I always use that expression on my email. Your expression of what they told you about the fact that they come into the world, but they ain't necessarily aliens. They're coming in, and they can be whatever they want to be. Even there was this group as aliens in London, England, that wanted me to do a book, and they channeled. The woman went into channel, and she was talking to them, and that's where they said this idea: if you want us to be aliens, we can do that. We can take you to our planet, but we've always been here, and you are the visitor, they said. And this idea that you come into the world for 70 or 80 years, and you think you own the place, and you don't own the place. You're here to take care of the place, and you're going to be leaving, and they've always been here. So this idea that it's much more complex. And so when I want to do the complex thing and tell people, you think you know what's going on, you think, oh, this is just ETs. I always tell your story, and I say, do you really think now it's just ETs? Whatever it is, it may have an ET component, but it's way more complex than people think it is. And we have to be humble and realize that we really don't know anything. And then that's why you got to go to the people who have been in the field, who I think are getting the most accurate information there is. Listen carefully to them and follow what they're saying, because they will tell you what's actually going on. If anybody knows, they may not even know what's going on, but if anybody knows what's going on, it's people who have had the encounters and have been in the field and are getting the downloads. Those are people you got to listen to. People who have PhDs doesn't mean you know anything. Just because the guy's got a PhD in chemistry doesn't mean he's going to fix your car. I mean, they're very specialized. You got to go to the people who are encountering the beings. And a lot of people will criticize you, or they haven't criticized me for years, but if they criticize your experience, you go, I don't have that good a memory, but as far as I recall, you weren't there when it happened. And that's the whole thing. It's a difference between your opinion and the people who are having the experiences. When you know what it's like, when you've had the experience, there's no going back. It's not like you can say, well, you know it happened. You know exactly what happened, and it changed your life, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's been good to talk to you again. Is there anything you want to add on that we haven't talked about?
Let's see it again. I don't know. I think it was good.
Yeah. I think the more we get your story out there and we talk about this oneness thing, we may get 5 people, but then those 5 people will affect another 5 people each, and you'll get the multiplier effect where even if a couple of people get on, I think we're gaining ground. I think there's more and more people, because I remember, if you know this story, when I first had the consciousness experience, and it wasn't so much the download experience, it was the thing that it's all consciousness. Consciousness is the answer. And I thought it was like consciousness. I didn't realize it was non-local consciousness. I didn't realize it sort
Yeah.
of developed like yours. It gets more complex as you go along. They give you, no, it's not really that. And they're sort of clarifying. I remember because I was the presidential guy, very nuts and bolts, president's documents and stuff. And the one guy said to me, he said, I can't believe you've done this, Grant. I can't believe you've done this. You were the presidential historian. You're the expert. And then you went over to the woo side. Like, what happened? And I said, well, I really didn't go there, Jerry. I got kind of teleported there. And that was like you and I. It's like you didn't plan to have the experience, but when they stick you in it, what are you going to do? You have no choice. You got teleported. You're in the middle of this experience, and you have to deal with it. And then you come out and want to be honest about it, realizing that this is your role, and that you have to talk about it. You can't take it to the grave,
Yeah.
and that's the way it works. So more and more people are coming, and I think since 2012, there's been a lot of shift in terms of consciousness, whether it's quantum physics, whether it's the psychedelic research, or whether it's the UFO research or whatever. I think we're making some ground, and good for you for writing it down, because a couple hundred years from now, it's stories like yours that they're going to say, boy, those people were so lucky. They got to be there. They were there when it started. And so, and I'm honored to be on the ride with you, and to be friends, and to share these experiences, because it's
I'm totally honored to talk with you.
beautiful. Okay, we'll leave it for that, and maybe when you get some new material, or we something else comes up, because we've had these things before. We've had these discussions where Lou Elizondo talks about something, and both you and I look at the same time and go, "Hey, like we know."
Yeah.
It's like we know the experience, and
Yeah,
we've had two
we are
conversations
like
like this.
we are like synchronized in a way, you know. It's like
Yeah.
they I don't know how to explain it, but something very similar,
Yeah.
like moving both of us.
Yeah. Like the first one he did, we should just remind people, they may have seen the one interview we did where Lou Elizondo says, they asked him, is it on world or off world? And he said, well, hang on. There's other options. And he starts talking about quantum physics and all this kind of stuff. And both you and I go, hey, like, why is he talking about this? You know, like, why is he going down this road? Maybe he knows something that we
Yeah.
already believe, and he's going down that road. Maybe he knows the same thing. And that's why we had the first conversation, that you listen to these guys, and you start to realize they may not be talking about it. But if anybody knows anything at the top of the field, I think you may say there's like 10 guys that know what's going on, but I don't think they know how it works. I think they just know it's consciousness, it's one, and we haven't got a clue what to do about it. So they may know, yeah, this is for real. It's a real phenomenon. But I don't really think anybody's farther ahead. That's where I say, I used to watch the high level people, but now I say the more important people are the experiencers, because they're getting direct information. Or I would even say to my assistant, I'd say, ask him this, ask him that. Like these questions were these very deep questions. And as you say, you can put the question there and they will give you an answer. It may be something you got to figure out, or symbols or whatever, but they will give you the answer. And that's what we need to move this thing down the field, is to listen to the people who are in the field, because I believe all the information is in the field. 40% of all experiencers say at one point during their experience, they knew the answer to everything in the universe. 31% of all people in near-death experiences say the same thing. At one point, I knew the answer to everything in the universe. And as I was coming back into my body, I said, I'm going to remember. And they said, no, you're not. No, you're not. And it all faded away. And all they can remember is that they knew the answer. And that's the idea, that the experiencers are in the field. The material, the answers are in the field. And they're the people that can bring it out and tell us. And people need to start listening to people like you, reading your book, reading all this kind of stuff, because I will almost bet everything I know after 46 years, this is where the answer will lie.
It's all in the oneness.
It's all in the oneness. That's the main message. 54% of all experiencers were talked about oneness and love. That makes no sense. Well, if you think, well, the alien was talking to you, why would he talk to you about oneness and love? You would think, oh, he's going to talk to you about your government, or how the world works, or nuclear weapons. It's all about oneness and love. And it didn't. When I first saw it, I didn't even catch the significance that there was that many people that got that message. That that they're talking this idea that unless we realize everything's one, that the world is one, we're going to destroy ourselves, because you can only separate so many times, have so many wars and battles. Dump so much stuff in the ocean where we don't see the connection to everything. and they're saying the time is running short. You have to realize it's all connected. It's all one thing.
Totally. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you again for your discussion, and let's do it again soon. And it's always wonderful to talk to you. And I hope people get your book about one. It's still on Amazon. It's still doing fairly well. You're still getting.
Yeah, it's every month is getting better.
Wow.
It's on the bestseller for 6 months now.
Wow, there you go. Well, I didn't know that.
The 100 bestseller on UFO, not on all Amazon.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Then people realize, and that gives me encouragement. If that's true, then the message is getting out there. People are starting to pick up. They don't want to just hear a story, because people always do this thing about UFO sightings. And it's like there's lots of people get UFO sightings. Let's get past the UFO sightings. That's kindergarten. Let's get to the next level, past the UFO sightings. UFOs exist. Let's try to figure out why they're here and what's going on. So I'm glad that your book is moving, because that indicates that the ball is starting to move, that we are making some progress. I'm very, very optimistic about that. Thanks.
Yeah, the ball is rolling. It's we are doing that.
And I'll do whatever I can to help you move it and to move the idea and get it out there, because that I think is my mission, my role, or whatever. And you feel good when you do it. You feel good that you've achieved something. You may not have saved the battle or won the world or whatever, but you did the best you could, and that's all you can do.
You know, it's my book is totally opened to the public because of you. I don't think that even if I would write the book, I don't think that I would find a way to make it public, like the way that you do it, very simple.
But we had that in the play before we were born. We wrote that into the play. You and I wrote it in there, and that's when you get these synchronicities where you think it was accidental, and maybe it's not that accidental, that we were intended to come at this time. People always do that. People always come to complain about something, and I always remind them, just remember, if reincarnation is a fact, you chose to be here at this time, in this place, in the middle of whatever mess you're complaining about. And maybe you're here at this time in this place in the middle of whatever mess you find yourself in, because you planned to be here. You were here to do something. And so you got to do something. So that may be what it was about, that we planned this. And so let's keep it moving and see what we can do. And it makes me really feel good that the message is getting out, that people are buying your book. And I'm honored. And Desta did more than I did. Desta did all the work, because we had
she did the hard work on the words and the.
I'll have to tell her. She'll feel very good that her book. She may send you another bill, but that's good.
Yeah. She works very hard on the translation to English. It was not simple.
Yeah. And now she's doing Jacques Vallée's books into French and German and stuff like that.
Wow,
and hers is the same thing. Like, I just met her accidentally, and she was doing the channeling thing. So I started asking her questions about the channeling thing. And because she's younger, she's able to do this, technology stuff and YouTube and stuff, which I don't really do. And so we got onto that. And I was one that taught her how to do books, how to do the first book. And now I wouldn't know how to do it. She's very good. And she learned a lot of stuff as she goes along, because, you haven't done the book, but the first one takes you like 3 months. The second one takes you a week. Third one takes you a day. And then once you got it down, everything's formatted, and you can do books very, very quickly, because you know all the tricks of the trade. It's simple that she's done in so many books that she's able to do it. But yours was a little bit different, because Hebrew is written the other way, from right to left. And I remember she was very frustrated when it first started. Like, oh, what am I going to do? It's going to take forever. And, how do we translate?
I had to translate it with Google, this word, and then she could do something with that, because she couldn't do nothing with the Hebrew. She took my translation from bad translation of Google translation and really find the right words. And what was amazing for me, that she understood everything that I write there. She really knew what I'm talking about, and it's not easy, because I used to, in the beginning, I took a translator, Israeli translator, doctor for translating.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand nothing. His
Yeah.
translation was very bad.
Yeah.
Even he
But
was so academic and knew English and knew
yeah,
Hebrew
yeah,
till
yeah. But
the
I think the difference would be she's been in the field. Like, I mean, I only learned this about a year ago, where she had the gray, a sparkly gray, come and put his hand on her shoulder, and that's how she learned to do this channeling thing, where she was trying to do this body asleep thing, put the body asleep, and she couldn't get it to work. She'd be up all night, and the body would be asleep, and she couldn't get anything. And then the being came and put his hand on her shoulder and said, "You want to know what it feels like?" And she could feel the thing go beep, 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 beep. And she was in the field. And from then on, she could do it. And that's why I said to her, "You're a sparkly gray?" She said, "Yeah, you never told me that." And that's so she's been in the field. So she
wow.
understands it's all the same message. And I would maintain that all the messages are going to have this oneness message behind them. Even like, what's his name? He wrote the book called The Children of the Greys. And he hated the Greys. He was really, and he said to the Gray at one point, he said, "So what's your concept of God?" And that's when the Gray said, "We are one with the one who is all." And you look over and over again, this
Wow.
message keeps coming across and many more books that'll come out will tell the same message. And eventually, I think we move to the next step. So thank you for what you've done, and I'll let Desta know the things are going well,
Yeah.
and let's keep it going. I've been honored to have talked to you, and I got it going because I realized it was an important message. But I think that most of the work it was done by Desta, and so many thanks to Desta Barnaby for doing that.
Well, thank you both very
Okay,
much.
okay, hang on,
Let's meet soon and talk more about this subject.
beautiful.